Okay, want to know what to look for when choosing your Speargun? Stay tuned for the upcoming video. Okay, welcome back to another video everybody. I'm Sam Price from Oxsenterprises down here in New Zealand, now located in Opua in the far north. This video right here is about what I look for, my personal opinions, and what I look for, what I like to see and what I don't like to see when looking at spear guns. Now when I first got into it, went something like this. Pretty plain and simple single rubber. This is an 18mm rubber, 120. Great gun to get going with. Great guns all around. Plenty of power for our conditions here in New Zealand. A little bit limiting, and certainly at the more mass-produced side of things. But great guns nevertheless. I think most companies, most gun manufacturers have something very simple, more affordable for you to get into your spear fishing. Now of course you can step it up from this. There's similar models that you can go double rubbers, bigger lengths, shorter lengths, but all in all, great little guns to get going with. Usually set up, just clip your float line and away you go. Some of these guns are set up with reels, you know, again you can tune them for a little bit. More suited towards your needs, and certainly great guns suited for snapper snooping here in New Zealand. Most fish, a little bit limiting when it comes to the bigger fish and sort of tunability. Now let's go to the almost the complete other end of spear guns. This right here is a Rife 130 Euro, set up for a breakaway. I've just got the mono tied off on this. Plenty of power. Now this is what you sort of want if you're into bigger fish, more blue water spear fishing. Pretty impractical around reefs and pretty impractical, especially set up with a breakaway, just for sort of day-to-day spear fishing. I know they're a lot more common probably overseas. The Rife Euro sort of set up, very big gun, very powerful. Not the most powerful, you can certainly up power from here. Beautiful shaft in it, set up for open water. I only use this when we're pretty much in open water. I love it, but certainly would be a terrible choice for you to go to on a day-to-day basis. Beautiful tip on the shaft, which I've owned this gun for over a year and I'm yet to hit a rock with it, so I would not want to. So Rife Euros and anything similar to that, great guns but certainly very limiting. Right, now of course here's something more practical, certainly something more tuned for day-to-day use here in New Zealand. I say New Zealand because our conditions, we sort of talk specifically for our country. I know a lot of stuff overseas you're typically using bigger guns for longer range shots. Here in New Zealand we don't get a hell of a lot of, we certainly don't get tropical viz, and guns like these are what I believe are set up perfectly for day-to-day use. Now coincidentally of all things I make these, so you can buy these from me. This right here is my personal gun. I have recently upgraded my parts onto this stock. It's a Roko stock, which I will be shifting to New Zealand Timbers. It's a 110, it's got two 16mm rubbers, which is quite a lot of rubber for a gun of this size, and it's also got a 7.5mm shaft in it. Now this thing I kind of made to be still very maneuverable around the reef. Like it's only a 110, so it's not a big gun, but loads of power with the two 16s and the 7.5mm shaft. Very capable gun for almost every single application. It's a pathos shaft in it. You may not be able to see here on film, but there is 3 hooks. Now I sort of use those around the reef, the closest two, and then shift to the back 2 for open water and potentially needing a little bit more power. I recently shot a 27 kilo kingy with this setup, not this stock, just a different stock, so essentially the same gun, same setup, and I was only on the closest 2 hooks and she strung it without a worry. Something like this would be ideal as far as I'm concerned for New Zealand conditions because it's set up and it's tuned for the user. And then of course we can shift to something smaller. This is one for my girlfriend Danny. It's a little 95. It's got a 7mm shaft in it, and we've got rubbers off our 100 guns, so it's easier for her to load. Still two 14mm rubbers, so it's still packs a good little bit of punch and really tuned for her applications. She loves blue, so it's got a blue resin finish. It's a Jarrah stocked gun, which is actually a little bit too heavy, so we've got a foam channel in it, and beautifully set up gun, again specific for the user. Now, as mentioned, when I look for guns, I am by no means a long-term veteran and I am not an expert, but I do know what I like. And we'll break this down into probably 3 categories here. First off is, of course, looks. Now, I like a good looking gun. I think everyone out there probably does like a good looking gun. There's really not too much that can go wrong with a spear gun as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people are making a very simple thing very complicated. A few of the smaller manufacturers around the world, I feel I like the less is more approach. I myself aren't interested in using rollers. I think it's complicating a very simple thing. I also just can't seem to get into wooden handles. I appreciate the craftsmanship in them, but they're not for me. I don't like the way they look. They probably feel nice. I haven't used one, but I just personally can't get into them. It's little things like that which you may or may not agree with. Okay, and function and performance. Now, the guns have to perform right. Now, what I like about manufacturing and choosing guns here is that we can set them up exactly to your needs, what you're going to be typically shooting. Now, of course, you don't want a massive big 130, 140 breakaway if you're going to be shooting 3-pound snap around the reef. These guns here are set up basically for what I view as the hole in the market in New Zealand. Really high quality guns, more suited to our conditions that can be used daily, which typically for most of the diving we do is a bit more closer range, sort of snapper, snooping, things like that around the reefs, with the ability to go up to bigger fish in open water, blue water, and still pack plenty of punch to be able to take big fish down. And lastly, of course, is price. Now, that is a huge deciding factor for most people. Obviously, something straight off the shelf, mass produced, is at the cheaper end, while handmade wooden guns tend to be at the much more expensive end. Now, this is purely budget, all of course at the buyer's discretion. Now, of course, if you are looking for a gun for yourself and want something tuned to New Zealand conditions, feel free to get in touch. I am retailing these guns. They're built with all Neptonics parts. We're doing stuff with fiberglass on them, so we've got a composite finish and a wood stock. Hugely durable, hugely strong, and a very capable and well-performing gun. Very simple, tuned to New Zealand conditions and what I believe is necessary. And priced at anything from around 700 New Zealand dollars, built to your specs. So if you are interested, feel free to get in touch. This has just been a video on what I look for when choosing a spear gun. If you would like to keep in touch with updates, you can get along to the second channel, Access TV, where I'm putting up pretty much weekly spearfishing content. That's it for now. I'm Sam Price. I will see you at the beach.